Hey there, and welcome to the UkeStuff channel, and welcome to this review of the Ranch Concert Ukulele. These sell on Amazon and Amazon only. That seems to be their method of sales, and it has been frequently in Amazon Choice and a bestseller on Amazon. So anyway, while I was at my previous school, I taught some spring ukulele classes to parents that wanted to come in. I had about between 5 to 10 parents that would show up on a weekly basis. And one of those parents, well, was a grandparent. And she came in with her daughter and they had a great time. The grandparent got bit by ukulele acquisition syndrome and started to buy a few ukuleles. And at one point, she bought a tenor ranch ukulele. That review that I did is still on this website. They left the ukulele there for me to tune and get back into shape, and I did a real quick review of it. It wasn't a long-term review, it was just a short-term review, but I was really impressed in what I saw. When I started playing ukulele, I was watching a lot of reviews and just absorbing information, and there were a lot of people, in fact there still are, they were very negative about entry-level instruments and buying off of Amazon, and I understand some of that. But I also understand that the average parent that wants to buy an ukulele wants to buy an affordable, decent first instrument for their students. And I understand that there are still some really bad instruments out there, but there are also some pretty good values out there as well that you don't need to shy away from. I've always wanted to go back, and I am a concert player first. I have every scale you can think of, from sopranino all the way to ukulele bass, and I do play them all. But my favorite, where I keep coming back, is concert. It just works for me best. I like that scale best. So I reached out to Ranch and I said, Dear Ranch, I am a music educator and I do ukulele reviews and I do ukulele play-alongs. Here are my channels. I would love to review one of your ukes, and they were kind enough to send me one to review. So that is how I got this ukulele to review. Sometimes I will ask. Sometimes if I just want to review it, I'll buy it. Again, on entry-level ukes, that's not so bad, but I'm not going to be going out and buying the latest Kamaka just for a review, unfortunately. So let's take a look at this instrument a little better. Now, what I do in these reviews is, first of all, is I look at some subjective issues, opinion issues, basically, like how does it look, is it a good value, that sort of thing. And that it really is subjective, because what I think is good may be different than you. Then what I do is I look at objective issues, like what is the data about the instrument, what are the measurements that I think are most important. And then I come back and give you a summary review or a summary thought of it, including a rating. And the whole thing is actually available on my blog, ukestuff.info, or you can go to ukeguide.info for the shortcut. And you can access the Uke Guide there. It's a yellow sheet built off of the idea of the United States energy saving sticker that comes with your appliance. We had to replace a water heater, and the idea came to mind of maybe I should do a one-page summary of an instrument in that context that shows all those things. And that's what it does. So if you want to see that, you can go to ukestuff.info, or you can go to ukeguide.info, and you can find this instrument, the Ranch 23-inch concert, and check it out there. So let's talk about the subjective issues with the instrument. The first issue is cost. So it is $70, and it does put you right in the middle of a lot of choices, but a lot of the choices don't come with some of the features of this ukulele or the kit. So keep that in mind. Also, later on when we talk about sound, keep that in mind as we review this ukulele. As you can see from keepa.com, and a big thank you to Rich Davis for suggesting the service, it tracks Amazon prices over time. You can see that the Ranch 23-inch was less expensive back in March, but once April rolled around, the prices went up, and they've stayed at this current price for quite some time. You could wait to see if you could buy one later at a little bit less of a cost, and you can also look at used ones, but be warned that something from Warehouse Deals is probably being returned as an ukulele for a reason. So just keep that in mind. So that's another way to look at price. The price has remained steady, and I think, again, is fair considering current demand issues on ukuleles. Lots of people bought them to learn over the pandemic, which is kind of fun. Let's talk about value. If you take a look, you're getting a laminate ukulele, and there's nothing wrong with laminate, especially if it's thin laminate, which this is. We'll get to that later. It's pretty resonant, very drum-like in its assembly, but it comes with some really nice things. It has obviously the strap buttons, so if you buy those separately, generally that's about, in the United States, that's probably a $6 to $10 purchase. If you don't install it yourself, it's another $10, so keep that in mind. You get the ABS binding, the white binding, and then you get the purfling, the white, black, or sorry, black, white, black on the edge on the inside of that. That's sort of an upgrade. You don't see that on a lot of the real entry-level ukes. You get a curved back, and you see that bump on the back? You get a curved back with it. You don't get that with most entry-level ukuleles. And you get closed-geared tuners, which are not as rare as they used to be, but they are definitely still usually not included on the lowest price point. So you get a lot of nice things there. Now, let's talk about the other side of this instrument, which is the things you get with it. And this is where I think Ranch really hits out of the ballpark. Of all the kits that I've seen, the Ranch really gets at what things does a ukulele player need. Now, the first thing you see is obviously the bag. It's a nice bag. About a year ago, it was one of the nicer bags that I saw. Now all the companies, they all leapfrog each other, right? So it's thick, it's padded, it's nice. There are some things in the bag that I would like to see. I'd love to see a hanging loop right here. I don't mind the one backpack strap because I very seldom carry the ukulele as a backpack unless I'm at a music festival. And then the other thing I'd love to see would be a padding on the handle. But beyond that, it is a really, really nice bag, and those are only wishes. The bag is absolutely functional the way that it is. And inside I have the accessories that come with it. It comes with a true 1-inch ukulele strap, and I noticed that one of the ends actually has the Ranch logo on it. That's really pretty nice. You get extra Aquila Nalgut strings, and they are the real deal. The instrument does settle down, so I know these are legitimate. Some people or some companies will make an ukulele and sell it with strings that they say are Aquilas, and they're not. These are definitely Aquilas. They're not my favorite, and again, not because of the string, but because of what they do with the instrument. We'll talk about that later with sound, but just so you know, you do get another set of quality strings. They are quality strings. You get a cleaning cloth that says Ranch on it. That may or may not be so important, but you know, again, wiping down ukulele, not a bad idea. And then of course you get a clip-on tuner. That's it. That's all you really need. So they're good accessories. They're made for the ukulele. They're high quality in terms of what you're getting. It's perfect. I mean, it's the perfect kit, and they really hit it out of the park. So if you add that case would normally probably be a $30 case on its own to the ukulele, and you add the strap. You know, I think about the closest strap that I know is about $10. You add that, you add the strap buttons, you add the extra strings, another $7 of actually Aquila strings. You add the tuner, which would probably be between another $5 to $10, depending on where you get it. Yeah, you can order one on Amazon if you want to wait for about 4 months right now with shipping from China. It's just not a good situation. So it's overall, it's really quite a good bargain for what you're getting. So I think the value is very, very good. The build quality, overall, I'm pretty impressed. I have only found one flaw on it, and I'll show you where it is. It's not the tuners or anything. It's right here. Do you see that little piece of brown over the ABS? I'm not 100% sure what that is. If the ABS didn't come together perfectly there, it's so minor. That's really the only thing. However, let's take a look on the inside with the internal UCam, and I can let you see what is going on in there. All right, everyone, I'm doing things a little differently today. I'm actually using the Wi-Fi feature, so we'll see how that works. Usually I plug this right into a computer and record, but I'm doing this all on my iPad right now. So let's go in here and take a look at the Ranch. Okay, on the bottom you can see that there is no bracing on the back. It looks like there may be a joint down there. You can see the wood label on the bottom there. As we look down at the bottom, there is your tailpiece. You can see some actual screws coming through the bridge, so the bridge is screwed on. See a little bit of glue mess up there, but otherwise Looks pretty nice and clean. You've got your notch kerfing on the side there. Maybe a little spot where there's a little gap there, as you can see in the upper right of your screen. And just looking around, it's generally pretty clean. Let's look around the other side. That's looking okay too. Maybe a little scratch when they were putting things together right there. But generally pretty nice and clean build on the inside. On the top you can see the bracing that runs down the middle. No bracings on the side there. And then there are a few braces like the one that's right in front of the camera right now, that big white mark there. So that's what we're looking at. Now let's turn this around and look at the front. Okay, going in, you have a pretty good view here already of what you're going to see. There is your neck block up there, and nicely clean and built on the sides there, looking good. I'll see if I can get anything else in here, looking up. Just you can see a little bit of glue seepage, nothing to worry about. Generally a pretty clean build. And we'll take a look at the logo as we are on our way out. So there is model number UK23 with the ranch logo, a little engraved or laser etched piece of wood for your label on the inside. And that is the inside of the Ranch 23-inch concert ukulele. So as you can see from the internal UCam, the ukulele is pretty well made. No major concerns here. It looks good and it's in good shape. It was well made, quality construction, not sloppy, nothing to be concerned about, no structural damage. So it's built really quite well. In terms of appearance, it's not your standard entry-level ukulele because it has the binding and ABS. It has the strap buttons. It has the arch back. It has the closed gear tuner. It has, again, we'll get to this later, but a really good setup. So in average, this is not your average looking ukulele, beginning ukulele. So it's a little better than average. Also, I was thinking this was another mahogany, and the company on the Amazon page makes great lengths to note that this is sapele. Now, sapele is a cousin to mahogany. They're very similar. They come from the same basic family of tree. So they can be sort of close to each other in real life, but they wanted to let you know that this is actually laminate sapele and not laminate mahogany, just so you know that. So in terms of appearance, it's not perfectly plain. It's more basic. It's more entry level. But again, I don't think it's unattractive. Now, in talking about appearance, there are two things that I'm not a big fan of. I'm not picking on the company, but as I think I said in my last video, I didn't know when the student gave it to me what this instrument was because I just couldn't read the logo. So one complaint, and it's so minor and it's such a small thing, but I would love if the ranch logo you could actually tell. I mean, I can't see the A or the C or that's really an H in there. Maybe I can see the N, and it's not just because I'm not wearing my glasses. So I get that it's stylistic, but I do kind of wish I would not be ashamed to be playing a ranch at an ukulele gathering, not at all, at all. So I'm not. I just kind of wish that logo was clean. I mean, it's their logo, and I'm not picking on the company, but it's just hard to read what the logo says. Once you know, you're fine, but before that, you're like, what is something with is it peach? I mean, it could look like peach too if you look at it, right? So anyway, then this little logo, that little, I didn't know what it was. Is it a shrimp or a prawn? And then later, they also appear around the sound hole, as you can see. I asked the company, and they said it's a logo that they designed that goes with, it's supposed to be an ox head in some kind. I don't totally see that, but whatever. I mean, I'm not a super fan of it. I'm not against it. It's just a little different. I could go without that particular logo, but it's not a negative point for me on the instrument. It's just something that I'm just not a fan of. And it's okay not to like every aspect of an instrument, so that's okay. Now, let's talk about availability. If you want one of these, you can go to Amazon.com and you can get one in just a couple of days. It's a little bit slower shipping these days, just in general, but beyond that, you can get one very, very quickly. Now, let's talk about playability. The instrument was set up very well. No complaints. Low action, no sharp fret ends, very well done. The neck is a little chunkier than some other ukuleles. It's probably about average for an import ukulele, but it is a little thicker than the last few that I've looked at on this channel. Other than that, the spacing, it's a 35 millimeter nut, which again is very standard. Some people with giant hands will not like that, but the spacing is approaching 9 millimeters between each string at the first fret, which is relatively roomy for a 35 millimeter nut. So overall, very playable. It's not the most playable. It could benefit from a little bit larger nut, a little bit wider spacing, and a little bit thinner neck, but you'll be able to play it just fine. So it doesn't really impact playability very much at all. Now, the final category is sound quality, and that is where I'm not 100% sold on the ukulele. I think it's fixable, and we'll talk about that. So when I play this, I'll see if you can hear it. The low frequencies hold longer. Do you hear that? Now I am holding the C string down, so C chord, so let me just play the C6 or the A minor 7 chord. And it's not that the instrument doesn't have a high end. I was reading the Amazon comments and someone was complaining about that it not having a high end and no sustain. It does have sustain. It's just the sustain is naturally with the lower notes. And reading the sapele thing, sapele is a darker word, but so is mahogany. So that's really not it. So what I hear here is a average volume ukulele. It's not loud, it's not quiet, it's just fine. And I hear an ukulele with a pleasant tone, but it's darker and it sustains the lower frequencies. Now, here's how I'm showing this. I have an app called Tonal Energy Tuner, which is actually used by a lot of band teachers. And they have this harmonic analysis. So when I play the chord, watch what happens here. I hit the chord, and then you get this part that sustains. You can see all the notes in the harmonic sequence are triggered at first, and then they die off, and you can see what keeps hanging on. And it's those lowest three parts of actually what we call the fundamental pitch of the string. So the fundamental likes to sustain. So I'm not crazy, and what I'm thinking about with this instrument is that the low end is really where it's at. Aquilas tend to mellow out an instrument, and they tend to kind of tamper down some crazy things. So I will totally refer to Alex Beds at Southern Ukulele Store, who did a great video on all the strings that they carry. And he just says, if you have an ukulele that you can't really find strings for, the Super Nile Gut, which is what these come with and the extra strings are perfect because they tend to have this really calming effect on an instrument. I think that the Super Nile Guts calm it too much. They're not bad strings, but I am looking forward to trying this with perhaps Martin 600 fluorocarbons, which are just general fluorocarbons that are available in most places. Although I understand that supply has also been locked down with that as Martin was closed for a while. But I would love to do that. And I may yet, when I'm done recording this video, record some samples to do a test by test, sort of like I've been doing my comparison. And I'll record the same things that I normally play, both on this instrument with these strings and then later with fluorocarbons. I think the high end will come out. So like I said, I think the higher end is fixable with some different strings, but we can find out. So that's the one area with this instrument that I'm not 100% sold on. I like sparkly ringing sounds. I like bell-like qualities, and this is focused on the lower part. They're all there. You can see when you hit the chord, all those harmonic frequencies hit for a second, but then they just fade out, and what remains is that lower part of the instrument. So with that, let's go into the actual objective parts of the instrument. I'm going to be looking down here from time to time just to review my notes. So it is a concert instrument. It is a 15-inch scale length from the nut to the saddle. So that's what really makes it a concert. There are 18 frets. There are side position markers. I like that, with a double dot at the 12th. You can see that. And of course, there are front position markers too. As I said in a recent review of the Lava U, which doesn't have these front position markers, it's amazing how often actually I do look for them. Not like that, but just out of the side of my eye looking for them too, in addition to the dots. It gives me like a grid to kind of position myself. It is a double bout body with that ABS and that really nice arched back. The soundboard is laminate sapele. The back and sides are laminate sapele. I believe the neck is mahogany. The neck also has joints there and up above the nut, but that's all pretty common. Kind of a nice shaped headstock too, not your average headstock. The fretboard is rosewood, as is the bridge. The bridge is a tie bar bridge. The fretboard is flat, and the nut and saddle, I think, are composite. I really can't tell. They have a bonish hue to them, but a lot of plastic, like this sort of the New Bone products, also have that same kind of tint. And looking online, I couldn't find the answer of what it was made of. It is not a compensated saddle, which surprises me with this instrument, because with all the other features it has, I thought it would have it, but it doesn't. It's a satin finish, as you can see. Got that nice little sheen there. The overall length is 24.25 inches. So measuring from the headstock all the way down to the tail without counting the straps. So I don't know where they get 23-inch, because maybe if you don't count that part, I don't know, but it's a little bit longer than 23 inches, and it weighs 1 pound, 1.1 ounces, so it's just over a pound. It's not heavy. It's pretty well balanced, right in the middle. It's all good. It has closed-geared tuners, which are nice. That used to be kind of an elite, or a step-up option. And really, at this price point, it is. There are a lot of instruments at this price point that don't have closed-geared tuners, so that's pretty nice. And let's talk about action. The action at the first fret is less than 0.5 millimeters, so nice and low, but no buzzing. And the action at the 12th fret is 2.25 millimeters, so nice and low there as well. So overall, a young player, a beginning player, isn't going to have to work too hard. And as they go towards that dreaded B flat chord, it's not really dreaded, but you know what I'm saying? Or they go to their first full D7, or they have to play their first C minor chord. Whatever it might be, that's going to be easier to do on this ukulele than an ukulele you buy off of Amazon that isn't set up. And it sounds like the company really stresses that. I love to see that. So you're looking at really nice action. The nut width, as I talked about earlier, is 35 millimeters. It's 34.98 according to my caliper, my digital caliper. So it's basically 35. And the string spacing is 8.78, getting towards 9 millimeters between each string at the first fret, making it 29.16 millimeters G to A, which is a little better than average on a 35 millimeter nut. It's not huge. If you have giant hands, you might be unhappy. But in my case, glove size large man, I have no problem working around this instrument in any way, even with the 4-finger chords like the diminished chords. And the final thing that I look at with the objective data is the depth of the neck at the 3rd fret. I was trying to figure out, how do you really talk about how chunky something feels in your hand? You do have to talk about the shape. It's a standard C shape, so it's not uncomfortable, but it's, it's sort of like holding half of a baseball bat if you are American that plays baseball. But at the 3rd fret, you get that C shape and a little bit chunkier, 22.64 millimeters at the 3rd fret. So that's from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck. So it is a little bit of a chunkier grip. It's not uncomfortable, but it would also not hurt from being a little more shallow. So if Ranch ever watches this and is looking for feedback, I'd love to see a little different profile on the neck. Why not be a little different? Because you've done some other really nice things with this instrument. Structurally, the only two things I can think of would be a compensated saddle, perhaps, which is not required. A lot of the K brands, the expensive Hawaiian-made ukuleles, don't have compensated saddles. And then a little bit different shape of the neck, and if you could make the nut a little wider, it'd be like an amazing, amazing home run. It would be just like perfection for a starter to middle use uke. Maybe also different strings, but that's a whole nother story, right? All right, let's go on to the summary of this instrument. This instrument has been on Amazon for a long time. It's been a bestseller. It's been an Amazon choice, and there's a reason why. It's really nicely put together. It comes with a kit that's just about perfect, and I can't think of any starter that would buy this ukulele that would have a bad experience as a result of the instrument. Yes, it's a laminated instrument. No, it's not going to sound as good as a fully solid ukulele or a lot of solid top ukuleles. But at the same time, it doesn't sound bad. It is tilted towards the low end, and that may be fixable with different strings. It has great features, has the great kit, some really amazing things like that really nice arch back, just like its tenor brother or sister. Really quite nice. I definitely recommend it. So if I was going to give this a rating between 1 and 5 ukuleles, 1 to 5, how would I rate it? I would rate this ukulele 4.0 ukuleles out of 5. What would bring it a little bit higher? I think different strings might. If I had that higher end shimmer on the sound, I think it would be a 5. So as I replace the strings on this one in the future and do a comparison, I'll let you know if that actually would move the needle for me. But as it stands, with that really low end sound without the sparkle, for me it isn't quite into the 4.5 or 5 territory yet. But it is a great ukulele. It's definitely recommended. If you have a beginner in your life, it's a great one. A beginner in particular that's looking for a wood laminate ukulele, which is where a lot of people like to start, although there's lots of options there too. Definitely recommended. So thank you so much for watching the video. Watch for the update with the different strings that'll be coming out here sometime soon. And as always, I'll be back soon with some more uke stuff for you.